What is something that you did that you would never tell your parents? My dad was a teacher, and several of his former students owned car dealerships. He always got great deals on cars. He came home with a Plymouth Fury. I think it was 1968 or so, with a massive engine. It was hugely overpowered. When I was home from college, I drove it to Chicago. On the return trip, it was raining as I drove up the ramp to get on the interstate and accelerated. I lost traction. The car spun multiple times and stalled. All the traffic around me stopped, but there weren't any collisions. I restarted, drove home, never said a word to anybody. I legit used Photoshop to change my grades on the report cards. They never figured it out. My little brother, a year younger, would get condoms from me because he was afraid to ask our folks. The only reason I was allowed to get them was I've been dating the same girl since middle school. I'm the reason you don't have like 8 grandkids from him. Got really drunk off my parents' liquor one weekend in high school. Woke up covered in my own vomit. If I were a back sleeper instead of a side sleeper, I could have asphyxiated and died. Schools hammer that don't drink and drive message, which, yes, of course, but I would imagine most come up short in presenting this kind of danger. I know a kid who died from choking on his own vomit at my cousin's fraternity, which was suspended in light of that. And when I was in high school, there was a party where people posed with this kid who had passed out, puked, and pissed himself. Of course, the problem with getting this message out is the fact that institutions would have to accept the kids are going to drink, and it's in everyone's best interest if they understand how to do so safely. Moved to a new town and his friends asked me to hang out. We went to a parking lot on Halloween night. Cops showed up because they were lighting fireworks at cars passing by. I was like, what the are you doing? We ran. Bad decision, and he cuffed me and put me in the back of a car. I asked the cop to buckle me in because I couldn't do it. He looked at me with disbelief, and then did it. Drove around looking for the others, asking me questions, and told him my story, and he let me go. Said don't be an idiot and find different people to hang out with. Dated a 19-year-old dude when I was 15. My mom even suspected and tried to warn me away, but I denied it. Should have listened to mom. Drove to Las Vegas when I was 17 with a friend after a high school football game. We were in the marching band. Told my parents I was spending the night at my friend's house. We drove out there about 4 hours, took a picture on a crappy flip phone, texted it to a few friends who told us we were legends, then ate at a Denny's and drove back. Scariest part, driving in the desert at 3 a.m. with no one around. I decided to see how fast my crappy car could go. Got it up to 110 miles per hour. All of a sudden I see light come up behind me and get close. Car passed beside me and it was a highway patrol officer doing at least 125 miles per hour. I slowed down immediately and almost shit my pants. So stupid and dangerous and absolutely no reason to have done that. I have no clues why to this day, just thought it would be fun, I guess. I was frequently bullied in middle school. One day, maybe I wanted to seem tough or whatever, but I got the super bright idea of making up a story of how 3 bullies ganged up on me and I fought them off. I knew some basic martial arts at the time, but probably nowhere near enough to take out 3 dudes with bodies bigger than me. My mom reacted more seriously than my middle school brain expected her to. She reported this to the school, and me and the 3 bullies I included in my story got called to the principal's office to talk with the school's counselor and some teachers. It was a very stressful day, but somehow my completely bullcrap story worked. The 3 guys I mentioned were repeat offenders, while I was known as our stereotypical straight-A nerd most of the time. Or maybe the teachers didn't really care enough to dig deeper into my very shaky story. Whatever the case was, I was the victim and those 3 guys got 3-day suspension. Those 3 did bully me pretty often before the incident, so I don't completely regret doing that, but looking back, seeing how many close calls I had back then, how easily my little lie spiraled out of control, and how easily things could have fallen apart if the school bothered to dig a little deeper back then, that was terrifying. I'm in a much better place now mentally. Haven't experienced bullying since middle school, and I probably matured quite a bit too, and have gained some insight from the situation. I still won't tell my parents about any of this though. All of my friends and teammates are doing hard drugs. This was back in the 90s where meth was prevalent in my country. I really like hanging out and playing with them, and I wanted to get into the basketball team, so I keep doing so. To be fair, they never offered me freebies since they know I'm trying to, go to a good university, which I greatly appreciated. I once invited a girl over to do the deed while my dad was at work and my stepmom was home. She never bothered me and always stayed on the other end of the house. I picked the girl up in my grandparents' high-top van and had her walk in the back gate and come through my room's sliding glass door. We got on my bed, and then I decided to go to the living room to see if my stepmom was actually home or not. That was when my dad was home for lunch for the first time in years and told me my grandparents wanted to take me out to lunch right across town. I went back to my room and had the girl just hang out in my bedroom for 2 hours while I was out at lunch. I was texting her the whole time, but was so nervous she might make too much noise on accident. When I finally got back, I walked through my house to see my dad was gone and my stepmom was asleep. So I proceeded to my room to let the girl out of the bathroom, and we did it quickly. Once we finished, I dropped her home and went to a friend's birthday party with the story. I used to nick mom's pot when I was in high school. I'm sure if I told her she'd laugh, but my stepfather got the blame at the time. "Are you smoking before work? The stash is getting kinda light." And that man has a long memory. I put my fist through the wall behind my old bedroom door at my parents' house many years ago. To this day, they have no idea that it's there thanks to a strategically placed Star Wars poster that I never took down. I live in fear of the day they decide to remove it. That I was secretly using the house phone for RuneScape memberships. When I was a junior in high school, I bought my dog at a flea market for $20, rubbed some dirt on her, brought her home, and told my parents she was a stray I found at a friend's house. They still have no idea. That they would have been grandparents about a decade ago. I'd only been with my then girlfriend about 3 months. She moved a few hours away for a job, and we were doing the long distance thing. Then we learned she was pregnant. I was still in my early 20s, no clear direction, career goals, etc. It was frightening, to say the least. After the initial shock and WTF had worn off, I was starting to get excited about the prospect, but I had no idea how to tell my parents. I know that probably sounds strange, but I was the youngest and kind of the black sheep. I was positive that if I told them right away, it would have just be seen as another fuck up. So I found a job where she lived. A week before I moved, she had a miscarriage. I still moved. However, the relationship kind of deteriorated after that. We were both depressed and communication shut down. Within a month, I was looking for my own place in a new city where I knew next to no one. They still have no idea that to this day they were almost grandparents, which is something that they desperately want. My sibling has only one stepchild and won't be having any kids beyond that. They want a flesh and blood grandchild. I'm now into my late 30s. While I've had my share of relationships, good and bad, some long, some short, I'm starting to wonder if it's just not going to happen, the whole family thing. I'm sure that this will be buried far under some more eloquent posts, but it was kind of nice to get that off my chest. I found this tape of my mom and dad, not knowing what it was. I played it. To this day, I feel like I'm going to puke when I think about it. Was it labeled Costa Rica Vacation? Was it taped 9 months before your birthday? Or was it taped over the Lion King or something? This is serious business. What actually happened to my bicycle when I was 10? I told them that it was stolen when really I wrecked it trying to do a stupid trick. Aside from that, I'll probably never tell them what college was really like. I broke my younger brother's brand new bed. He literally had it for 3 days, and I blamed his big bonedness. The kids in my school didn't scrape my car up or key my car. I fell asleep while speeding to school, nailed the mailbox of my car. The mailbox slid up the hood over the windshield and landed about 50 to 100 feet behind my car, while the car ended up in a ditch. Amazingly, other than the scratches, no damage to the car. I left a $20 bill in the ruined mailbox with a note that said sorry and proceeded on my way to school. That I've been a stripper for 3 years now. My mom knows that I don't live the most conventional life, but she would be so disappointed. I worked as an escort during university. I earned more money than them both combined. They thought I got a great deal on my rent and that I had a large grant for my student loan. My grandparents raised me. My grandfather took me to their church to sign me up for church camp, and then after he was inside signing the paperwork, he told me to get to the truck. My 13-year-old self was super excited. I put the truck in reverse, hit the gas, went to hit the brake, didn't move my foot, hit the gas again, crunched right into a car. I panicked, went to put the car into drive, and I don't know what happened, but I never put the car in drive, hit the gas, and crunched some more. F-150 on a Crown Vic, and the only thing scratched was the plastic on the top of my bumper. But the right-hand tail of the Crown Vic was just demolished. I pulled away and prayed no one saw. My prayers were answered. A week later at church camp, the pastor gave a sermon on how someone hit his car and was going to hell for not fessing up. That I got pregnant right when a boyfriend of mine and I broke up the first time. I got an abortion because I didn't want the baby to have a dad that resented it. I then fell into a depression and flunked out of college and lost my financial aid. That's why I couldn't afford going to college anymore and dropped out. Not just because they raised tuition. That I'm the bottom in my gay relationship. It's never the one you think, and I don't want my parents thinking about me getting pounded in the behind. Or that my friend and I used to put a blanket on my roof and slide down it, stopping ourselves with only a foot or two before the roof ended. We were dumb. My usage of hard drugs and how they paid for most of it. My mom's car smelled so bad that they couldn't get in it for a few days because I sprayed 2 bottles of liquid fart spray everywhere inside. I did it with my mom's best friend. She's hot as F. My dad got a raise at his job because I blackmailed his boss. I saw him in public with his mistress. My mother was one of those ladies who always spent a ton of money on useless kitchen items that only have one super specific use that she herself never even needed. One of those items that she bought and loved dearly was a $15 pampered chef melon baller. Anyway, one time when I was 14, I was so constipated I thought I was gonna die. And I was so embarrassed, and I really didn't know what the F was going on that I felt like I couldn't tell anyone. It was so bad that I thought my internal organs were rejecting my body and trying to flee via my asshole. I didn't for 3 days. Eventually, I got up the courage to try and get it out and over with because I was just getting so backed up that I stopped eating. In the process of trying to deliver this baby, it got stuck halfway. I panicked and I horse walked around my house looking for anything to help me. And then I saw it, sitting on top the kitchen counter, shiny and new. So I grabbed some liquid soap, lubed up the melon baller, and shoved it up my packed backside. I didn't know what the F I was thinking. All I know is that I was in pain and in panic mode. And by golly, that melon baller was worth every goddamn penny. Scooped my right out and gave me an intense feeling of relief that I haven't felt since. God is my witness, my mother came home that day with watermelon and honeydew just so she could use her new melon baller. 12 years on and I've never mentioned it, and my mother thinks that I hate all types of melons due to my refusal to ever eat her summer melon ball salad that has since become a staple.